in Tidal Workshop in my GitHub repository, and you'll find the file demo-1.0.tidal. There should be a link in the YouTube chat as well. Hello Adam from Amsterdam. Hope you're doing good. Right, yeah, so I'm going to talk about Tidal 1.0. So I've been working on this for quite a bit the last month or so. It's not ready for release yet, but you can install it if you want. You can get the link for the development version here. If you're using Cabal, you can install it like that from your terminal window. You can uninstall it again, and your current version will then start working again. So everything's safe, honest. So when you start Tidal, once you've got this development version running, if you're that brave, once you start it, you'll see loads of error messages, which you should just be able to ignore. And then what you need to do is run this bit of code, which is in this file. And it should say sending hello and sent, which is very polite. And then you should be able to do some stuff with the new Tidal. So to start with, if you've used Tidal a bit, you'll be used to doing things like D1, sound BD. That doesn't work anymore. You have to use this P thing, and you have to give it a name, which could be 1, for example, and then it should work. If you really miss D1, you could just do something like this, and then yeah, it'll be back. So part of the reason for doing this is that it'll be a lot easier once I've coded it to control what's playing and see what's playing. So if I was to do this and then type list down here, it should give me a list of the running things. Oh, I've just hashed. Oh no. Yeah, okay. So it's just told me that both 1 and 2 are playing when I did list. But hash works as normal, that'll stop them all. I don't know why I chose that sample, I'm just going to have to wait for it to finish now. Good. So there's that. So there'll be lots of things you'll be able to do with these, like use the transition functions, which you might have seen, like xfade2, blah de blah, or it will be, once I've finished it, a proper solo thing, like being able to do solo 2, whatever, and then being able to do unsolo, which will put it back to how it was before you soloed things, like on a mixer, and stuff like that. So there'll be a lot more control over what's playing, basically. So I've rewritten a lot of the innards, so which means that I've changed the sort of core representation quite a lot. Sort of understood it a lot more this time. So there should be fewer bugs, like for example, at the moment if you use for example, yeah, if you use off at the moment, it tends to not work very well in some situations. Like with Jux Rev, off would never work properly. I don't know why, but now it seems to be a lot better. So that's good. So basically things which haven't worked before hopefully will now. And also there's a lot more control over structure. Like at the moment in Tidal, if you use this hash thing, it takes the structure from the left. But if I was to take that and do this instead, it'll take the structure from the right, which is just this simple sound. So it's just playing one super mandolin sound per cycle. So this bar kind of tells you where the structure's coming from. And if you do this, it will come from both sides. Maybe you can hear that. So I need to, I don't know, I can't be bothered to give these things proper names. Anyway, so for example, if I had a clap and a snare, that's quite annoying. I could then take all the structure from a pattern of ends instead. Oops. Yeah, that's getting a bit confused because these aren't lining up with events or something. Yeah, this is getting a bit confusing because this syntax is adding some rests, which means it's not lining up with the snare there. But if I did something a bit simpler like this, you can hear that the structure's coming from the clap and snare pattern. If I move it here, it's coming from this end pattern, or I can get the structure from both, and then you end up with 4 events because you've got this new one starting halfway through. And that works also for any kind of patterns, so not just these control patterns or parameter patterns as used to call them, but it also works for patterns and numbers like this. Oh, that's because I need to do that. Okay, that's better. So you can hear that's actually making quite a lot of difference there. Okay, hopefully that makes... is an update required for Emacs Tidal mode? Asked Matt Earnshaw. I don't think so. Oh, I think maybe you have to turn off... yeah, okay, I might need to commit something there. But you'll just get some errors which don't actually matter, I think. You can ignore the errors for now. But it's good that you've got it actually running. Okay, so that's all quite exciting. So if I wanted to multiply these numbers together instead, I could do that. Let's use speed instead. or divide one by the other. Yeah, good fun basically. Hash defaults to the left as before. Yeah, so basically it's surprisingly, even though a lot's been rewritten, it's surprisingly backwardly compatible. So if you just use the hash, then it'll just work as it did before, which is the equivalent of taking the stretch from the left, but taking values from the right, I think. Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, more details follow on that. Okay, so chop and striate work together properly. I'm sure, I don't know, I think people are doing this thing where if you have a chop and then another chop, you get this really nasty sound which people liked a lot. But that was kind of buggy. I think what was really happening is just making the pattern really fast rather than actually chopping it twice. But now if you do two chops together, it will behave properly. So this should be chopped into 12 pieces. If I slow that down, you might be able to hear that a bit better. I think there's about 12 there. And you can mix chop and striate and get some interesting things happening. So this is stuff I've implemented and haven't really played with all of this, so it's all to be discovered really, all the possibilities. But I think combining chop and striate is going to be a lot of fun. Nice to show. What I mean by that is if you just type a pattern like N3, I don't know. It's just a bit clearer what's going on. Oops. So make it a bit bigger. You can see actually it says that there's a event starting at the start of the cycle and lasts till the n8th of the way through, with a value of 3 for n and bd for s. And then there's the second event, starts at 3/8 of the way through and goes to halfway. It's just a lot easier to read than what was there before. Yeah, so yeah. Let's see what that sounded like. Okay, simpler OSC shapes. Okay. Yeah, so if you want to define a custom OSC message, it's going to be a lot easier than it is at the moment. I mean, this is the one for Super Collider. Yeah, you'll just be able to say the address and port and path, and what if well, Super Collider accepts any parameters, so I've just put nothing there. But it'll be easy to say what an open sound control message looks like if you're into controlling things other than SuperDirt. No Tidal MIDI. So Tidal MIDI is a bit buggy and there's no one maintaining it at the moment. So I haven't spent any time on that. So it's not going to work with this new version. So you can either stick with the old version, or the best thing to do is to switch to SuperDirt MIDI, which is a lot more solid. It doesn't have clock drift, which the Tidal MIDI thing does. So Tidal MIDI is the Haskell thing that you install with Cabal or whatever. SuperDirt MIDI is what just works out of the box with SuperDirt, and it's really easy to set up and works really well and has a more complete definition of stuff like program change messages and stuff like that. Kindome, Mike Hodnick is going to do a video and tutorial for how to set up SuperDirt MIDI soon. Otherwise you can ask on talk.lurk.org on the Tidal channel. So patentable CPS. So CPS stands for cycles per second. That's the equivalent of beats per minute, BPM, in Tidal world. So if I have a nice pattern going, like, or maybe not a very exciting pattern, but still. Then I can actually set the CPS as a parameter. So if I wanted to have it twice as fast every other cycle, I could do this. I'll just use some round numbers to make it easier to talk about. So the first cycle lasts for 1 second, and the second cycle lasts for half a second because it runs at a rate of 2 cycles per second. So 2 cycles end up lasting 1.5 seconds. That's not a very exciting example, but this is quite an exciting thing. It's really fun to just mess with the time. Just becomes a lot more flexible. Harry asked, would CPS changes affect all running patterns? Yeah, it would. So it would be the same just to run it in a separate one here. So this is just a global tempo change. I think it would be interesting to have local cycles per second. At the moment this is floating point, so if you wanted to have a third, to do this, but I don't know, internally it is a rational number, so you should be able to have proper thirds, and then it won't drift if you're trying to align it with some other musical equipment that you're not synced to. But Tidal, SuperDirt MIDI does have MIDI clock at least, which should work with this. Matt earlier asked, Matt Spenlove asked if you can do continuous patterns here, and yes you can. So let's try. So this should slowly speed up the pattern until it's twice as fast. And then go back to where it was, OSA effect. Could be a sine wave. Get the idea. Yeah. Lots of fun to be had there, making farty noises. External controllers, so this is something I want to get working for my collaboration with Sam CCAI, which is being able to just put in controllers here. So this isn't fully working, but I can kind of demo it. So if I had this and I wanted yes, that's an integer. So if I wanted to control this value with a controller, I just have to give it a name like that, and then I should be able to control it from something else. Let's see, call it foo. So right, so imagine I've got some kind of MIDI controller that's got a knob that changes values, and I've mapped it to this thing. So this would be me doing some controllerism. And this is still a pattern, so it can be controlled, treated as normal. It's just like an external value, really. Which brings me on to the last thing, which is that the way that Tidal's calculated now has changed a lot. So it used to be that it would calculate everything in 8 times a cycle, but now you actually set it in hertz, so in number of calculations per second, so it's a steady rate of calculation. So if you have a low CPS, you won't get that annoying effect where it takes ages for things to change. And the default rate at the moment is 100 hertz, which I think it only matters in terms of if you've got an external controller, that would be the rate of change it could support, but that would be configurable, so you should be able to get it higher than that if you want really low latency. Right, I think that's all I had to show. So thanks for listening. If you've got any questions, then I'll stick around a bit longer and answer any more of those. There's a bit of lag on this stream, so I'll have to wait a bit. But yeah, start typing your questions about this or anything Tidal related, or something else if you want. I don't know. But yeah, if you want to try out these examples that I've typed in, although I deleted some of them, sorry, you can go to this URL where you'll also get these brief instructions for how to try out the new version. Yeah. I think, yeah. Oh, it says, okay. Any questions? Aha. Thanks, Giuseppe. How about installing from the GitHub branch? Yeah, that would be fine. So in that case, you would yeah, so if you just download or check out the refactor branch, that's where all the work is, and it'll just be the same as doing that Cabal thing. It'll install something called Tidal 1.0.0, and Matt asks, will that clash with the release version? No, it's fine. If you want to get rid of it again, to go back to your original version, just unregister it and then restart your editor and everything should be fine. yeah, if you want me to go over anything, that would be fine as well. Yeah, I might switch to my web browser. And show you the project. Nope. Okay. So yeah, this is the where you can see the work being done as well, and see what issues there are, give feedback on things. It's the project page for each one's an issue, so you can just have a look at what we're saying about rethinking patterns and state and go to that issue and find out more. Feel free to ask questions there as well. Cool. Well, if there aren't any more questions, then I think I'll go and play some computer games. So yeah, have a nice evening.